This conference will now be recorded.
Great. Okay, so thanks everyone for showing up for this assistive technology and distance learning office hours. The slides are at that bit.ly extension there, and also they should have been included on the calendar invite and the email that you got today too. So hopefully that came through all right. So here is, I'm gonna go back one slide here. There we go. So I am Julie Ray, and I work for the Duluth Public Schools and Region 3 as the Assistive Technology Coordinator. But also today, I really want to acknowledge that we have a lot of members of our Region 3 Assistive Technology community of practice here too. And so many of them will be joining us, and they'll be helping to answer your questions when we get to the Q&A section. So I thank them for being here, and you'll get to hear at least one of them present today. So for our agenda, we're going to talk very briefly about the SET framework. We'll do some tools and resources for reading and writing. Some of those you may have heard about, so we'll move through them really quickly. Then we want to reserve most of the time for question and answers right in the middle there. Then we'll move into Greg Sumner talking about some distance learning wins, and then I'll briefly share there some slides with some additional resources on them. I'll just fly through them, but know that they're there for your reference. So why should I learn more now? We know it's a time when information is coming at us so rapidly, so quickly, and we are having to learn new things every minute of every day, it feels like, both professionally and personally. So you're all here, which I greatly appreciate, and clearly you have some intrinsic motivation for showing up to either learn more or find a solution to your problem, to a problem that you might be having. My hope too is that if you can find one thing today that you can do a little bit of front loading with even one student or a group of students teaching that, then that may either increase their work or their independence, and in doing so maybe decrease your workload a little bit too. So helping out on those fronts. Okay. So for those of you who have talked to just about anyone about assistive technology, you may have heard of the SET framework. You probably heard some mention of that. And of course, that stands for the student, the environments, the tasks, and the tools. So when we think about the student, there are things that they do or need support doing, the environments in which they do those things, the tasks that we're actually asking them to do, and then what tools might support them. We know that in distance learning, everything that we knew in terms of the environments and the tasks, except for our students who were working in their homes or some of our very, very young children, those environments and tasks have been turned on their heads, and we are rethinking what all of those things look like. So as we're going through these tools, make sure that you keep in mind some of those students. You still know the students, so be thinking about how that might be impacted by these new environments and these new tasks that we're asking them to do as we're moving through this. See if there are things that could work for you or for your students. All right, tools for reading. We're going to fly through both the tools for reading and writing, but know that in these slides, all of the links are live, so you will be able to see those and go back to those for more information. The first one we'll talk about is Bookshare, something that's been happening around the region a lot. We've been talking about Bookshare. What this is a tool for qualified students, and it gives them digital reading materials and basically focuses on published text, books and magazines, things like that. There's a link there for more information generally from bookshare.org, but that training resources piece has just about anything that you could want to learn in either video format or a handout. Super great resources. In order to access this one, there is someone in your district or co-op who is a contact person who can get you set up as a teacher or sponsor, and then you can add members or students. If you aren't sure who that person is, you can let me know and I can get you in contact with them. Bookshare also just did a recent webinar, a 53-minute webinar, all about how to get started. That's a great resource if you're wondering for more. Also, we talked about it being for qualified students. There's some free books for all students on there available now. So I'll do a really quick demo for you. This is what it would look like for a younger child for a picture book. Sometimes those don't work so great in terms of formatting, But in the web reader, you would just click Read Now, and then the play button. I'll show you on my screen what that looks like. So here is a leisure reading book that might have been downloaded for a different, maybe slightly older student. And when you click the play button,
the time traveler, for so it will be convenient to speak of him, was expounding a recondite matter to us.
So I always say to people that while it's great to get that audio information from these books, it is not James Earl Jones reading your book, it is audio generated voice. So something to keep in mind, but that's in general how Bookshare works. Okay, we're going to keep flying through. Second one is Read and Write for Google Chrome. This is a text-to-speech option that reads text aloud in Chrome, highlights as it reads. There's a link there for more information. The first one is a link to Read and Write's page there, and then a short video about text-to-speech. You can download or add the extension to Chrome. The link is there to do that, and then you'd simply click on the purple puzzle piece to use it. There is a free version that just has the text-to-speech option, but teachers can get a free full version of that. So I will show you what that looks like. So when you're on a web page, you would just click on the purple puzzle piece up here, and then in your extensions bar, and then click play. All right, and that looks like it's hung up. But what it does is it would read the text aloud and highlight as it read it. I like the Read and Write for Chrome because it has a lot of different options in terms of the highlighting in voices. You can change some of those settings on there. So again, just highlight it and then click play. Very simple option there. All right, when you're looking at text-to-speech, there are a lot of other options within the device that you're looking at. In a Chromebook, it's called Select to Speak. There are some videos there that Greg Sumner made, YouTube videos, a minute or less in how to do that. In iOS, there's an option called VoiceOver on an iPad. That's how that works. And in Windows, it's called Narrator, and that's a link in how to do that within Windows. So depending on the device that you're on, there's probably an option for text-to-speech. Tina Olson was kind enough to build this website here too, with some great reading websites to give some access for books for kids to access directly through these reading websites. And Bookshare shared a blog on lots of different options for ebooks there too. So be sure to check those out. Tools for writing, voice typing in Google Docs and Slides. Maybe you've seen this before. It's now built right into Google Docs and Slides. It'll type exactly what you say. Targets the task of writing, and there's some more information there, some help and a brief video of how to use it. But super simple. You can go to Docs or Google Slides, click on Tools, then Voice Typing, or Control-Shift-S will give you the same option. So here's just a screenshot of how that works, tools and voice typing within Google Docs. If you're using it in Slides, it won't type in the body of the slide, it'll only type in the speaker notes at the bottom. So something to keep in mind if you wanted to use that for Slides. The nice thing about the accessibility settings of speech to text is that they should work just about anywhere where you can put your cursor to type. So in a Chromebook, on iOS, and in Windows, there are options where you can type with your voice. Again, really brief links there for you. Tina again put together this nice slide of writing resources, both for writing and for spelling within K-12 Reader, Brain Pop, and Spelling City. So be sure to check those out too for some additional options for students to access. All right, we flew through several tools there, but again, you can go back to the slides and make sure that you can access the links if you're looking for more information about those, and of course, reach out to me with any questions that you might have. But what I would like to do now is open it up to questions and answers. So as Shannon said at the beginning, you can feel free to unmute your mic to ask a question. If you'd rather, you can type that in the chat window, and she will be monitoring that and reading those out. We would love to see as many faces as possible just to see and get some feedback too in terms of how you're doing. But yeah, so feel free to unmute your mic, share your webcam, or type in the chat window any questions and answers. And both myself and I'll defer first to some of our Region 3 AT Community of Practice members to help answer those questions.
I have a question. This is Nicole Fury. I have a question about the Read and Write plugin for Chrome. What are your suggestions if we wanted to utilize that for getting it on the student's iPad? Because it's hard because they're already at their houses now. So is it just a link we could send them and then it would download automatically for them?
This is Krista. Hi. Yeah, you can go to the Chrome web store. Is that what it's called? And just navigate to the Read and Write and send them the link to that. They would need to like click on the button that says install, I think, but it should be pretty self-explanatory. And on a Chromebook, it'll just automatically recognize that and put it in. It's possible that your district might not allow students to enter to update their own extensions. So it might need to be a push out that your tech department does. Shannon, do you have any more experience with that? She might know.
Sorry, yeah. It depends on the district. Nicole, what district are you again?
I'm with St. Louis County Schools.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with that district. And some districts, you have to go through your tech department to get extensions installed. Some don't. So you could definitely try it first, or if you're concerned about it before sending it on to the student, you may want to just put an email out to your tech department.
Yeah, I think I'll send an email to our tech department because I wouldn't want my student to get frustrated if I send it out and then it doesn't work. So I'll probably, thank you. I will reach out to my tech department.
Was it a school Chromebook?
Our students have individual iPads.
Okay.
So it's gonna be for an iPad, but it's he's like used to using Google Chrome and on a daily basis. So and yeah.
Great question. Yeah, and those accessibility features too. If the extension doesn't work, then maybe those accessibility features within iOS might work too. But great question. All right. Again, feel free to unmute yourself or type something in the chat window if you've got any other questions, either about the tools we've talked about already or anything else going on in this wide world of distance learning.
I don't see anything in the chat box right now.
Okay, well, if it's okay with everyone, we can move to our next segment and we'll make sure that we have time at the end too for more questions as they come up. So I will go back to the slides here, and our next piece is Distance Learning Wins with Greg Sumner. So if we could hand the presenter mic over to him, that'd be great.
All right, Greg, I did, nice coat, Greg. I see that I have two of you. Did I share it with the right one or not?
Wrong one, sorry.
Wrong one, okay, let me get that fixed.
This is so fun. This is like a real news studio, thank you. They just did my hair.
I like your sign in the background.
Thank you for noticing
Great.
that. I'll pay you for that plug later. Perfect, I meant to mention that. It's totally not a spoof of some good news. All right, so here we go. Oh, whoa, where am I? Okay, so I'm over here. Okay, so can you see my screen now? Did somebody say yes?
Yes, we're good.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. Okay, there we go. I'm looking over here. Okay, all right, here we go. So every week, or we're going to try to do like a little weekly or so thing here of talking about some distance learning wins, some chicken soup for the soul, if you will. So if you want to access this document, it will be in the show notes, so you can get to all these links very easily. So hang on tight. We're going to get through this in under 3 minutes. So basically, this is a feature on teacher-student stories, tangled in tech ergonomics, and school-wide wins. Our first story comes to us from Melissa Buck at the Northern Lights Special Ed Co-op. Her quote is, "So far so good, a bit of a shift. I like it." She's working with a middle school student with a hearing loss. The task is teaching that student self-advocacy. She also has a task of sharing her lessons, scheduling time to meet with that student, and collecting data. Here's the tools she's using. And if you notice here, so here's her Google Calendar event. Inside of this, she has a form. She also has multiple attachments in here. You can't see it, but there's actually a screencast in this appointment and a Google slideshow that they work on collectively. Nice job, Melissa Buck, keeping it going. All right, Stacia Speeds is our second story. She's a speech therapist at Moose Lake Elementary School. Quote, "I really like the option of sharing my screen with students so I can model use of the device or speech sounds." Her student is a first grader that is nonverbal. The task is, how do you communicate with augmentative communication device, and how do you practice speech sounds? The tools she's using are here. You'll notice this is the AugCom screen here that she's sharing, and she can see her face. So the student could look at Stacia and at the screen that she's supposed to be learning how to use, and she can model that. The second part she uses is Boom Cards. That's a free app, something like that. Tina can say better in the show notes maybe, or the chat room, what that is exactly, but this is a way she teaches speech sounds, and the student's able to look at Stacia's face as she's talking. Very cool, Stacia. Tangled in Tech is our next segment here. We're going to talk about different ways that people are using tech tools to shortcuts, secrets to make it better. So sometimes there's a problem with talking over other. So this mute shortcut can be really nice for you to toggle on and off mute. These are the shortcuts for Google Meet or Zoom. Nonverbals are on the rise as well. Using nonverbals to raise your hand, different things like that help from talking over others. If you use Google Meet, you must get this extension. It's the grid view for Google Meet, gives you the option to see everybody on the same screen. All right, so we have some ergonomic wins. For all this sitting around we do, there's a lot more new aches and pains. So here's a nice DIY method here from Jessica Brown from Northern Lights. She made her own stand-up desk with cardboard boxes. You gotta like something like that. And here's an exercise break for you. 4-minute high energy Tabata. Take the Tabata bottom to bottom challenge. See if you can do it. Challenge your friends. And for a school-wide win, we have a few different school-wide compilations here. Just come back to this document, click on these links, and you'll see the different school compilations. You might know that your school has done one. Please send that to me, and I will put that in the next edition. Look forward to the future. We're going to be seeing Edison has, Raleigh has actually sent one. Northern Lights Academy has some exciting revelation on distance learning fidgets and some more ergonomic pieces coming from Christy Just. So back to you, Julie.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Greg. I appreciate it. It's so nice to have, like you were saying earlier, some of those positive things get shared, sort of those silver linings. We know it's not the easiest times to be doing things, so it's nice to see and get some focus on those positive pieces. So thank you so much for doing that. I will reshare my screen here. Again, there's the link to that document that Greg just shared too, if you want to see any of those links or get some more information on that. This next slide here, or the next series of slides, was built by Tina Olson from Northern Lights and Krista Siebertson from Duluth Edison. So some great resources here. I'm going to fly through these so that we end up with a couple minutes for questions and answers, but feel free to ask any questions about these too. So the first slide in this section is visual supports and resources for distance learning that Krista developed. And these are some really in-depth websites that she has built with tons of resources for ASD and dealing with COVID and dealing with distance learning. So definitely check these out. Lots of great resources on there. Videos, visual supports, all sorts of great things. The next slide shows the Northern Lights Co-op's site also has a COVID-19 resources section. If you go to the resources part of that and then to COVID, there are some great documents on there and a lot of other resources and links to some really nice pieces too there to support students and your own work. Then on the next slide, we've got 3 different links. The SPED Tech Resources is another list that is lists some tools that might be helpful for you and how those things can be used. So definitely check that out. Infinitec is a great resource for being able to do online learning. In the next couple of days, we've got some PD time, professional development time, and I know some people have some open time frames in those. Infinitec has tons of learning opportunities on there, both surrounding assistive technology and lots of other things. So if you need some PD, definitely check that out. The Lighthouse Center for Vision Loss, there's a link to their newsletter there, but they also have an AT lending and demo program. Things might be looking a little different right now during these times, but they're really expanding that resource. And it used to just be for individuals with vision loss, but now it's available for all individuals with a disability. So check out their newsletter and subscribe to that. Before we go into more questions and answers, I would just like to encourage you to, in this time of overwhelm, take and think in the SET framework. Think about just one thing, one tool that after sitting here today with us, thank you so much, one thing that would be of benefit for you and your students. And think about that thing that you can maybe do a little bit more research on, or try to teach to a student if you already know about it, or to get some more information about. So again, just to keep it feeling manageable and to keep your forward momentum with information, try to pick out that one thing that you think sounds most promising. So I do have a thank you slide in here, and I want to thank all of you for taking the time to join us. But before we sign off, I'd like to reopen it up to some questions and answers and see if anyone has any more questions now that you've had a little bit more time to see some other resources and to possibly just think about things. Does anyone have any other questions? Again, you can unmute your microphone or type something in the chat window. And while we're waiting to see if anything shows up in the chat window, just know that a recording of this copy will definitely, or a copy of this recording rather, will be emailed to you. And thank you, Shannon, for making sure that this was recorded. And you can always feel free to reach out to me individually too at that email address on the screen.
I think everybody should try. Oh gosh.
Oh, I'm going to stop the recording and then maybe people feel comfortable asking their questions here. Just a second.